That's pretty good. So, hey, everybody, thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is pretty awesome. We're talking the two clouds. We're talking CloudRadial and then CloudOlive. With me is Adam Ross, the CEO, co-CEO, and co-founder of CloudOlive, and also longtime customer of CloudRadial and of CloudOlive, Curt Thomas from ProVelocity. Thank you both very much for joining me on this webinar here. And I wanted to start off, again, kind of just understanding what each one of our companies does. And we're really going to be focusing around billing reconciliation, how to streamline that, making sure that, again, you can bill appropriately. And again, how to automate a process that we've heard a ton of people having issues with, making sure that, again, bill counts are correct, and how, again, using some of the data that you get from CloudRadial, feeding that into CloudOlive. And again, Curt is going to be talking about how he does it because he uses both systems. So a very tangible, very real, very example-driven webinar today, not salesy, like I know you guys love. So let's start with sales, obviously. Selling CloudRadial. Let me tell you about what CloudRadial does. Most of you probably know, but at the same time, I always do it. Who's CloudRadial? If you're stumbling into this and you're kind of wondering what we do, the easiest way I always tell people is really, it's a client-facing portal for MSPs. So MSPs get CloudRadial, they put it in front of their customers, and it does a bunch of stuff in there. So the easiest way that we've come up with to explain it is, most people are familiar with the concept of a PSA, or professional services automation. Most likely you have one. Even if you don't, you're probably familiar with one. And that's really where you run your back-end operations. That's kind of how you structure, again, your tickets, your billing, and whatnot, right? That's kind of where you live in the back end. CloudRadial, we're branding ourselves as a CSA, right? Client Services Automation. We have this very unique yin-yang logo to kind of show you that what we're doing is really the client equivalent of a PSA. So our game here is to take all of these different touch points, all of these different vendors, and even in native things that we do, like our, the list is on the right here, from the ticketing portal to our training in LMS to reporting of our own, and kind of put it all together, because what we want to do is we want to offer your customers, right, a regular end user, your office managers, and people that are paying the bills to get IT services. We want to offer them a pretty straightforward solution that helps them understand what you're doing for them day after day. And that's something that I think is very difficult typically, because again, tech stacks change. Tech is potentially very complex. A lot of people don't have time to understand it. So by putting it into one big platform, then the idea is that a customer, kind of like any other tool is out there, right? They can access CloudRadial as the portal, get in, do their day-to-day, do their tickets, do their training, but also get these reports, get these valuable things, and get some really great information out of it in a way that, again, is self-service 24/7 whenever they feel like it. That's also particularly important. Again, today's discussion is a little bit different than what we typically do, because usually when we have these webinars, we're talking about these different vendors and how that benefits the customer directly, right? So in a lot of these integration partners that we have on the left here, what we do is we take their information, we display it somewhere in our product instead of CloudRadial, and then that helps the MSP not only show information, but start conversations about that. In this case with CloudOlive, it's unique because we're doing something that directly benefits you guys. The client obviously benefits because their bill is correct, but it's really mostly for the MSP's benefit, which again, CloudRadial does some of that stuff too, but that's why this one is hopefully a little bit more enticing than typical, because this one is directly yours. If you've never seen CloudRadial, this today is not really a demonstration of CloudRadial. I really want to focus on CloudOlive and how all that stuff works, because again, I think it's definitely worth a look. But if you've never seen it, this is a quick screenshot. We'll cover a little bit of it because we're going to talk about the processes and how people use both systems and how it kind of operationally flows. But to match kind of the face to a name, this is an example of, a bunch of different features that users could access, right? They get to their tickets, and this is some of that interface that you can use to not only engage with customers, but also give them something tangible to interact with, to show and to kind of play with IT services to make it very real. So found great success in there, but let's jump to the meat. Adam, I would love for you to take over. I'd love for you to kind of start with a big question, the highest overarching one, which is this guy. Why streamline that billing reconciliation? And you certainly may steal my screen. There it is.
Done. Can you see that okay?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro. And thanks for everyone for tuning in here. So Big question, why Streamline billing reconciliation? We tend to not use the word reconciliation too much these words. I think over 3 years of building CloudOlive, we've learned that it's probably the least sexy word in the entire industry. But why it's worthwhile focusing in on, every month you need to do it, or really should be doing it. And when it's done right, and you can sort of have a bit of software that actually verifies everything, it means that not just the PSA is true and reflective of what you are getting invoiced and billed from your suppliers, but then the enrichment of the data as well. So everything around unit cost, which is such a key challenge of maintaining accuracy at any form of scale inside, say an Autotask or ConnectWise. So when it's done well, when it's done right, like there's a lot of peace of mind that comes with that. So the other piece is around, we've found that the MSPs we work with typically are reselling around 10 to 15 individual suppliers, and take a Data or a Casay. Now they're really an amalgamation of many acquired companies over time. They're still invoicing you separately. A lot of them are in different portals, sort of they're getting consolidated down further. But the impact of reselling 10 to 15, that you're getting invoiced at different times in the month, some's in arrears, some's in advance, but you're typically trying to get the bills out either first of the month or at a specific time in the month. Every MSP does operate a little bit differently. And the other piece that we've learned, and I'll go into my background, which is where the origin of this problem and solution really stemmed from, was there isn't a single PSA standard setup out there, and there never will be. So one of the things we often find is that just doing an initial true up of ensuring everything you're getting billed is actually going out the door. That if there's 100 line items that you're getting billed from vendor A or distributor A or whatever, that we estimate that 5 of them just won't be any PSA at all, if there's a manual touch in between. And the process that most MSPs seem to be going through right now is that time drain. And a lot of people will typically start working with this because they see a huge amount of time that they can actually just get back, because it's often a merge of Excels and reports out of different systems or running different screens side by side. And it's just a much smoother way. So we've been building CloudOlive now for pretty much 3 years this week, actually, since we incorporated. And we set out with the big, broad problem area statement of stop MSPs underbilling. So we sort of just ventured out and had no idea what the eventual solution would be when we actually did that. But where the problem stemmed from for me, I worked at an MSP a really long time ago now, and I remember presenting to a client, like a law firm it was, and I spent a few days sort of prepping all the data to be able to present them. And when I presented the usage that they were using and buying through us, and they were like, "That's not right." I was like, "Oh, that's not cool. It was one of my first like very junior sales role at that time. And then when I was introduced to Autotask as a platform, a company, I was like, if we had that would have been solved, because that owns the whole client record. That's awesome. I'm going to join this company. I was there for 8+ years, and then Datto for a few years once they merged, but that didn't solve it. The problem got a lot worse when Microsoft started to really push and invest into cloud around 2010, 11, 12 sort of thing. And the platforms, the PSAs really were built in early 2000, or CW even earlier than that. So like subscription software wasn't really the norm. So in 2020, so as I said, 3 years ago, my co-founder and I, he's got multiple startup experience, he's an amazing builder of companies, and he and I, he essentially said to us, like, it's such a broad problem area, go and win on a client and see if they pay. Like, we're not going to build software until we've proven that somebody wants whatever we're going to solve for them. So that's what we did. And for the first 12 months and first 6 clients of ours, we did things completely manual and gradually build out technology around it. And the key part to that, because like if things aren't talking to Autotask or ConnectWise or whatever, you go integration, let's just build that, let's just go really fast and build all these APIs and all the rest of it. But the actual IP and the like truly being able to solve this, we learned in the first 12 months that there's some incredible complexity. And the major complexity lives with when the MSP on bills very differently to how they're getting billed from their vendors. And if they line up perfectly and it's 1-for-1, it's pretty easy. But the truth is that there's so many permutations to that for us to solve this properly for every MSP on the planet, we need to understand it at a level deeper than anybody else on the planet. And that's what we've done. So for the first 12 months, that's what we did. I don't wish that upon anyone. That was a terrible year of life, but it gave us an incredible foundation to then actually build exactly what our MSP partners need. And today we've got 120 plus vendors that we've got experience with, integration into Autotasking, ConnectWise, Manage. And we really want to solve this problem really deeply across every agnostic vendor out there and every MSP billing permutation, which is really the complexity that we've designed. And really sort of humbling almost to have Curt. So Curt and I have been working together for near on a year now. And why I messaged Jeff and Ricky, and I was like, guys, you are on a gold mine with the amount of data you've got in CloudRadial. We work with so many different vendors and so many MSPs, and the master report that comes out of CloudRadial, I'm like, oh man, do you know ProVelocity are reconciling multiple vendors in one hit from this data set? There's so much data in that the master report that we actually, as CloudOlive, we need to increase the file size limit of uploading stuff because it started to break it. So I'll maybe hand it over to Curt to maybe introduce himself and the company and sort of how they're leveraging the two platforms.
Sure. I'm Curt Thomas. I'm with ProVelocity. We're a MSP that's been around for over 20 years. We've recently merged with Iron Edge, and with us coming together, we're two of the most respective, innovative IT companies out there in the industry. With that, with that formation of the two companies coming together, we offer our customers, a stronger entity, and our clients benefit for our combined expertise and resources. We've also been invested in by a private equity firm called Riverside Company. And that is going to allow us to expand dramatically over the next few years. We like to acquire new MSPs and grow our service regions. We're primarily in the Rocky Mountain region and the Southwest, Texas, New Mexico, Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. We primarily, like we said, like Adam said, we use CloudOlive primarily for billing reconciliation. It has really solved a lot of my headaches and bought back a lot of my time. I kind of wear two hats in the company. I'm the purchasing manager and I do billing and reconciliation. So there's 2 times of the month I'm really busy, like end of the month and the beginning of the month, and then the rest of the month I'm doing purchasing. So we really utilize that. It's really helped us refine our billing and monthly services because, like as you say, we use Autotask as a PSA, and if you're not in there changing it every month, it just sits there and atrophies, and you go along over time without any realized return on some of the services that you're billing out. So with CloudOlive, we've been able to get that revenue back into our company and really like utilize what's being built out there. In CloudRadial, we kind of stumbled upon CloudRadial, and it's a great tool. Like Adam said, we reconcile several different vendors out of there, just because some of our vendors don't have great monthly exports for us to bill. A lot of the stuff that we get is not true numbers. So CloudRadial has definitely been one of the saving graces of us as well, to really get a good hold on the actual numbers of services and quantities for all our billing. But it all kind of deals down to our PSA, and we've really built a really good PSA with making a unique service match for each service that we bill for, and that's really kind of helped us realize all that regained income. And I don't know what I would do without these two companies, actually.
No, that's cool. And I'd say, just to add to that, we see so many PSA setups these days, and having worked for AT for a really long time, that like I always believed and saw that if you get the billing component of the modules right, they're awesome systems. If they're not right, they're extremely painful and big and heavy and hard to use. And one of the pieces with ProVelocity in particular, which I'd class in the top sort of couple of % of MSPs we work with, is they don't give their clients the actual SKU names of the like what they're buying, and a lot of companies do try to do this but sort of lose control of it. And I'd say that this is one of the things that they've done to incredible granularity and control, and like ideally and hopefully CloudOlive has played a small part in keeping that true and reflective of what they're meant to be mapping everything to. And likewise with the like really good margins, hope you don't mind me saying that, but really solid margins with their through billing around server management, around user management, and just the control that they have with like the multiples of premiums and E3s, et cetera, constitute a human, means that we bill for this. Like that level of control and hands off has just been awesome to see. And it's something that we now sort of coach some other MSPs around when we're working. We say, hey, there's some other ways that you can maybe consider these things. So yeah, Curt, I really appreciate you jumping on here.
Yeah, no problem.
I'd actually now go into probably the ugliest slide you've ever seen in a webinar, but so this is an example of part of the mega master report out of CloudRadial, and the reason why we've highlighted a few things and we've sort of put the view on a couple of these is Curt and I sat down and we went, all right, what are we trying to achieve? And for Curt, they wanted to be able to lift out the count for CrowdStrike, which you can see in the middle in terms of the antivirus column. They wanted to be able to understand in a, like, is something a server because we bill in a different way? And then if you notice down in the red Microsoft Windows XP, we can lift any word or portion of word, and we can bring that into CloudOlive in an automated fashion. So then you can just search for it. So just an example, right? If you wanted to go, which clients run Windows XP? Out of this, we want to see it. And then we can just write the word flag or XP or old or something. We can bring that in, and then it becomes searchable inside of CloudOlive itself. But we sit down with Curt and went, what are you trying to achieve? Because the nuance of getting this right, and I'm sure that many in the call can relate to it, is what we learn in that first 12 months of building the company is like, there's little permutations that need to be lifted out of each of these data sets and aligned to a specific client because it was sold in this specific way 5 years ago or 2 years ago, and we can't change that. So for these things, we do minimum billing, we do maximum, or any of the permutations that humans currently are solving for you, we look to lift that and place that directly in the CloudOlive so somebody else you don't need to remember that anymore. Okay, and the process can then be offloaded to anyone in the company as well. Curt, you know this file pretty well. Is there anything you can add to it?
Well, I like to use this file too. Like when we do TSMs with a customer, we can look at the antivirus and say, okay, I could talk my techs and say, look, there's these computers that have Windows Defender, they need to have CrowdStrike installed, or this Windows XP this Windows XP machine that's too old, it has to be replaced. So we have that conversation with our customer saying, look, this is an old machine, needs to be replaced, or these machines need to be updated with the latest and greatest CrowdStrike AV. We utilize CloudRadial a lot for things like that as well. And talking with you and building out our billing, it's great. I'm actually thinking of a few more things that we can kind of do, flag and whatnot, coming down the road.
Yeah. And the key part about this is wrapping it around the processes you'll currently do. Like we do certainly recommend simplify the PSA as much as possible. If you can do a one-to-one mapping, that's utopian. It's also seriously unrealistic to have it across the board. But that if you have it as a very vanilla, very boring, that's an awesome starting point. And then there's bundles on top of it or whatever groupings you do, what visibility you want to provide your client. It's still the data from vendor A or distributor or CloudRadial is fairly static, but the ability to map that to how PSA decisions have been made over a really long time is really where we try to come in and gel that sort of the two disparate data sets together for each and every supplier that you want to go through. Without further ado, I might jump into and just very quickly, just want to give you a view of how this works, and then yeah, we can sort of break in if there's any questions or anything. But in CloudOlive, we can see here for April, our MSP has 6 different suppliers that we choose to run through our system. We've got clients that have 16. That's probably the most. But it's the same process, okay? So we've got an example here, and this is not too dissimilar to what Curt's got in terms of like server, workstation, Mac, and AV. We break them out for him. That's just what he wanted. So if you build for those different components in different ways, then based on different formulas, we can lift whatever we want and group them and sum them and sort of bridge them back into the ConnectWise or AudioTask. We read via API the ConnectWise agreements and everything associated, AudioTask contracts, everything associated. And then when we bring the file and data in, regardless of what it is, if the mappings have already been done prior month, it just automatically finds a home. So we've got 7 lines here. And what it's telling you here is we're reading for the sell price, of course, on the unit out of the PSA. And then we can just say, hey, there's 3 lines with errors. You may want to jump in and have a look at them. If I come into CloudRadial AV here, fair bit of information, okay, but what we've managed to merge into the one place is anything to do with the vendor, and then we've just mapped that to AudioTask here, okay? Our goal in this is to elevate any form of billing risk that you have in your MSP, period, okay? And we've listed that out here in the remaining steps. And this is really it. These 4 things here, and if something's not mapped at all and you're not billing, naturally, that's not going to get charged for. They're the 5 areas where you may lose money, okay? And to Curt's point here around like Windows Defender still living there in this one here, even though we've mapped it to a CrowdStrike inside of AT. If we look at last month, we can actually then see, oh, it needs to transfer to CrowdStrike. We pin that comment. Oh, we forgot to do that. Often used for about to offboard a client or client has offboarded, technician, please switch that thing off. That's just going to yell at you until you actually do something about it every month until it actually drops off. The other little icon down here is maybe Trafford Center, our client is offboarding, which is why we never fix the 34 discrepancy that we see here in the unit count. That one, on the other hand, did actually get switched off. So it's like, cool, we don't see them anymore. Hey, this was there last month, just an FYI. This is what it looks like. So that covers that. If you just want to focus in on getting the unit count right, really straightforward there. So we're buying this, we're selling that. Our recommendation is that you would increase it by that. We're buying this, we're selling that, same deal. Push that. So it's just saying that we've actually already done that one in the past. Demo gods. And then that will push the update automatically into your ConnectWise managers, what we've got synced up to this. The AudioTask workflow is slightly different, but achieves the exact same thing. One of the other bits that we've learned from mainly around Microsoft NCE discounts being there or not is the unit price accuracy inside of your PSA versus what's in the vendor. So this is what we're reading here, okay? This toggle will leave you with a little icon just saying, hey, this is different to what we see between each of them. Do you want to accept it? Or if you notice here, like our margin's actually gone backwards because we're reading month on month. Like if we actually now look at legal help for the CrowdStrike thing, if we go and try to make sense of what's actually happened here. So CrowdStrike here was $3, now $3.30. when we built this, we assumed that MSPs would just go, okay, cool, yeah, we'll just accept that and we'll push that change into ConnectWise and we'll just accept that. I reckon 9 out of 10 times it's prompted them to go back to their vendor and say, what's happened here? How long has this actually been going for? But because we try to achieve 40% margin on this line or on this vendor, you can, because the costs have changed, we can update the cell in the one hit just to align everything and you can keep moving on it. And then that along with everything else, then we'll have 40%, 40%. These has got the cost increase, if you recall. So that's why our margin when we reconcile is going to be different. And then naturally when we do, like that's our current margin, but we need to add that. That's going to go to 40 when it's done. And then everything will be 40. You're like, cool, we'll move on to next month. So true control of this is your month-on-month margin has not changed and unit count discrepancy matches the unit count increase or decrease from the prior month. It means last month it was spot on. It means this month it's spot on, and you can just keep rocking and rolling and moving. The last bit, I just want to touch on it because this is something just to say thanks for everyone who's been on the call. We've got a few offers at the end of this, but this is a report just pulled from Autotask or ConnectWise of all the additions or all the services that you've got across everything. And the cool thing about this is you can pick multi-product or you can just do a keyword search over here and it will just index everything you've got currently getting billed. And you go, cool, we got 416 of these that we're currently billed across these 6 customers. Here are the unit counts for each of them. And this is just a read from your buy sell out of ConnectWise in this case and the billing frequency you see. A little bit more to it, but I guess we'll come back to the main preso, but not sure if there's anything else you guys want to add to that or Curt in how you're leveraging it as well.
I actually wanted to display for a second, just like you were showing a little bit of CloudOlive, what that information actually is in CloudRadial. If those, we keep talking about that master report, and granted, like you were kind of, saying this isn't really about CloudRadial, right? I mean, really, this can be done with any kind of export that you can get, which is fantastic because that means that you're not limited. So CloudOlive works with anything that can spit out any kind of reasonable export. Where it comes from,
even customer name and unit count will be more than enough for us. We've even got a client that gives us 320 domains and nothing else, and we build that up and make it work same way, exact same thing.
And I think that's a lot of the power here, and I think that's why it's an exciting integration in general, because it's not limited by this one use case or this one specific thing. I think that like we're happy because we aggregate a ton of data, and if we can spit that out in any system in any ways that helps you guys, it's great. And obviously CloudOlive is more than willing to do that to help set it up. But when we're talking about the CloudRadial data and why we fit into this equation and kind of why we're doing this co-webinar is because, again, that aggregation that we get really is a massive amount of information. So for those that don't know, again, us being a client portal, being an aggregator of reports, trying to show, again, really we're trying to go for that end user. We have this issue where a lot of the information that you're getting is just too much for the end user, and yet we still need to gather it. So it's this kind of catch-22. You want to report on it, but also you can't really explain it because it's just too much. So what we do is we gather that information in a way that is not like an RMM tool. So CloudRadial has its own data gathering agent. Really, this is one of the many reasons we have our own agent. You don't necessarily need it to use CloudRadial in general, but again, if you do, you can kind of understand where it goes for it. The reason we have an agent and it pulls the information in very much like an RMM is so we can kind of aggregate that information. Now, when you put this agent on a computer, right, we have the Mac version, we have the Windows version, we have a server version, right? They're all fundamentally the same thing, but it'll pull them in. And again, in the portal, right, in CloudRadial, if somebody wanted to go ahead and see the details of a machine or a server, they can drill into that, right? So MSPs can use that as a way to discuss things and have kind of more strategic conversations. So rather than doing what I think would be the mistake, again, we're talking about to the client directly at this point, which is you most likely don't want to spend your time, especially in bigger organizations, line item auditing or having discussions about individual users in their, I don't know, their CPU being like, it's 10th gen, now we're on 12th, 13th, whatever it may be. That's kind of slow. We want to kind of take a higher level view of that. So what CloudOlive is leveraging is not, again, these specific line items that you'd have to do one by one. Rather, what we do internally is we take these and we put them into our policies. And really all it is again, we're simplifying it. We're making it easily understood for the MSP and then the customer. So again, in the client portal side, if I want to have a conversation, I don't want to run through a technical report. I want to be able to say, hey, your business productivity is hurting, or maybe there's issues with your compliance, stuff that's tangible in a business sense. Again, you saw a little bit of that snippet. So what Curt does, and this is really how we do it, is if you have CloudRadial, what happens is you put that agent on your machines and there's a global section for them. So if you go to your partner and report section, what we're doing is we're leveraging this tab for endpoints and servers. And this is literally a roll-up of all of that technical information across all companies, not one by one. So if you were to download the Excel file for it, which you can do right now, I'm doing that right now. Here it is. And you pull that, this is exactly what we're talking about. So this is an example of the data set, and kind of like both these guys were saying, it's huge because CloudRadial captures kind of a massive amount of information. So it's really up to you in that sense to determine which of these you want to reconcile against. And I think that that's fantastic because, again, this gives you hopefully not only a way to do that within CloudRadial, but some ideas to do that with any other system you want. But this is what they're working off of. And this is kind of how that stuff works. That agent updates every day. So an agent forces a check-in with these machines every single day, which means that, obviously whatever your billing schedule is, whether you want to reconcile every month, I don't know, 2 weeks, depending on how aggressive you are, obviously monthly is the most common, you can kind of do that with confidence. That's one of the good things about CloudRadial, is that you can be sure that that data is going to be fresh. So you're going to have the right thing. You're not accidentally going to put in, weeks or days old data. So I would say, a word of advice from our side is just make sure that you have, fresh sets of data whenever you're doing these reconciliations in general, whatever tool you use. I think that was it for me. Let's see if there's.
Yeah, awesome. I'll take it back then.
Please.
Yeah, and with that, if from our side, any bit of data that's in any Excel, any portion of data can then be lifted and organized in a way that can be leveraged and searched upon afterwards or alerted. So sort of been through that, but if we'd gone back and submitted that and saved that, you just move this to reconciled and go out and have a drink and relax and take some time back and spend some more money that you made. But we truly want to make sure that anything you're getting billed for or is deployed is you've got eyes on it and it's profitably going out the door. Then you've got utter granular control right down to unit cost accuracy inside your PSA, of course. So one of the special offers, just to say massive thanks for spending the time and the investment. Appreciate how busy everyone is, but we would love to get to know everybody on this webinar. And if you've got want to do CloudRadial, awesome. We got all those mappings and stuff set up. If there's another vendor that you've got, you just want peace of mind with, naturally we're doing quite a lot around NCE at the moment, and ensuring that even if you've got an integration already built in, that has behaved the way that you expect it to. Super common around Microsoft because it's big dollars, not a lot of margin. If you want that peace of mind, let us know. We could work with that. And the CRM Insights module, where you can filter on company's product or do a keyword search across everything. If you just email info@CloudOlive with the subject of CloudRadial, we'll get back in touch, and you'll have access to CRM Insights to run with and use in your own business, and at some point hopefully work with you. But if you've got a vendor or if you've got a supplier in mind that you're like, oh man, I wish we just knew could verify everything, we'll take that off your hands and get that set up for you in the first month.
Yeah, and I wanted to say as well, for our sake, I'll take over once again. For our sake, that link I have on screen there is for those that want to go ahead and try it out and want to give it a shot and that do use CloudRadial already. Head over to that radials.io/CloudOlive, and we have an article up there on how to do it. Like I said, it's not a very complex thing. I think the only thing you have to be aware of and cognizant of is if you go ahead and pull that report, make sure that as you import it in and you kind of get it all ready, setting up that, we had this discussion actually right before the webinar, getting in touch with CloudOlive, sending an email over to info@, even as you set this up, so they can help you kind of tie those fields together and get the most out of it, is super important. So that way you have some guidance on it. I'll say the last thing for me, if you have not seen CloudRadial, if you're interested in seeing CloudRadial to any capacity, you can certainly schedule a demo. I think I have a little thing on that. Very simple, just radials.io/demo. We can kick that off as well. We can kind of show you the other stuff that we do. But yeah, I am out of topics, but if anybody has any questions, certainly feel free to share. If not, we can always return 20 minutes back to you. That's pretty good. We did a good job not taking a full hour.
Totally.
Give everybody a sec. And if not as well, I believe that, standard protocol for this is that we're going to go ahead and send the webinar recording. This is going to be posted to YouTube. If at any point anybody has any questions or anything at all, just email either one of our organizations. Ours is going to be either info@CloudRadial or support@CloudRadial. It'll get to the right people. And then for you, Adam, I believe is it?
Yeah, I'll put and just Adam at CloudOlive will come straight through to me, but just get in touch.
Perfect. And then Curt, thank you so much for joining and giving people a little bit of a real taste instead of just theoretical. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys have really been a lifesaver to us, and I want to thank you guys a lot. And we like Adam was saying, we do use it for all of our services, not just CloudRadial. So we use CloudOlive for all of our billing services.
Totally. And then Adam, looks like a question for you just popped up from
Justin.
So
from Justin. So yeah, it's an upload process from any form of Excel-ish, like even worst case PDFs, but typically 99 times out of 100, there is another source that we can get our hands on typically. We've got a really long list of 100+ different how to access these things. One note that we haven't touched on, we are in a beta program now of a direct pull from the Microsoft Partner Center, specifically around NCE renewals. So that's going to be coming out very soon. And that will be the first direct integration that we build. We've got all the mappings, all the tables, everything structured there. And then we feel like towards the end of this year, we'll move directly into API mode and really push hard in that arena. But for now, to solve this agnostically across the board, we typically like an invoice from the supplier. Reason being, that's the amount of money that's going to leave your account. We might as well make sure every line item, every SKU is profitably hitting the mark that you expect it to.
awesome. Really good. Oh, another one.
All of them. We love any RMM we really like. You build servers, you don't do network, like think of it as whatever a human's doing now, likely in a pivot table, we'll have a similar concept in how we bring that data in. But RMM, we've got really, really strong experience. And actually, because I worked for that company as well, we've got really strong experience about how BCDR and they bill by agent, and often MSPs don't bill by agent. So you underbill after like your client's growing data size. So all of those nuances we've often learned over that first year actually. But yeah, good experience with those three.
Yeah, and for those that aren't checking the Q&A, the question was for the data specifically that they're reconciling. Are we talking BCDR, RMM, the SaaS, or what? And again, can't stress enough, agnostic, right? Anything you can output is what they're going to do.
Totally. We've got 120. We've also got yeah, as I said, like the domains one was an interesting one. We've also got clients, a lot of clients now who use like a Microsoft report to go, give me business premium and above, roll them up, like sum those numbers, pointed at a specific additional service inside their PSA, because that's what we bill a full user, and then non-mailbox things go elsewhere and we bill them separately. So that type of logic that the team's doing, that's what we want to try and help with.
Yeah. And then Barbara also followed up with, they deal with a bit of time on the SaaS side, the time gap. Is that something that CloudOlive could help with?
So we deal with a bit of time gap on the SaaS side. I'm not sure I follow, sorry, Barbara.
Which if you want, Barbara, you can also clarify by throwing some more details in that Q&A. But I think in general, and this is an open question for you, Adam, do you your current based, do you usually see more Autotask ConnectWise, or is it pretty close to 50-50 split?
Certainly the growth is very much 50-50. Some months it's ConnectWise, some months it's Autotask. So we started with the Autotask integration for obvious reasons. That was my background, and we since releasing the ConnectWise integration sort of 18 months ago, there was latent demand initially, naturally, and then they've just been growing really nicely and steadily across all geographies as well. Like we're based in Sydney, Australia. There's some super cool tech coming out of Australia, but we've and New Zealand as well. But we've got about 35% of our client base here in Australia and New Zealand now, and then the rest is Europe and the States. So anyone that runs AT or ConnectWise typically is a good fit. So with SaaS, same with any invoice. If you invoice before it gets in, like you invoice your client. The question there was, They take a screenshot on the 25th for Datto SaaS and invoice on the 1st. We have changes to quantities between those dates. It does make sense. Yeah, it's the same answer we give for any vendor or distributor. If they bill you after you invoice your clients, that you're never going to be able to reconcile it perfectly because of those permutations. So there's pros and cons to it. A lot of our clients bill on the 1st, yet a Datto or something might bill you on the 6th of the month. So the options there are run a report on the 30th, 31st, probably what you're doing now, bring that in. You may not have the unit cost associated with that. And then periodically, you can still throw in the actual invoice at a later date and ensure that unit costs actually line up. But there's just pros and cons to all of these things. And we work through each of these during the installation.
Gotcha. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, very good.
All right. I think that's probably it. So like I said before, thank you, gents. Really appreciate you joining. Oh, anonymous. I love an anonymous attendee. I got to stop cutting off the questions.
Yeah.
Like, we got to go. End question.
Again, so one of the things we haven't touched on here is we send a questionnaire out before we actually kick off trying to automate stuff. We try to understand more than what we've learned on a demo typically. But Azure, depends what you want to do. Like the question we always ask back is, do you roll it up into one and have a unit count one and you make X% markup on it? Yes or no? Or do you split out reserved instances and you have unit counts on it? Yes or no? Or do you break it down even further? And based on that, like Azure is epic because you've got like so much data that you can group upon. Like again, think of a pivot table in Excel. If you have it just at the company level, you will sum everything. If you have it at the company SKU ID, then you're going to have like the breakdown of the reserved instances, etc. There's normally, I'd say, majority of the clients we work with have the majority of clients that we've worked with are doing a unit count one, make X% markup on it normally, but whatever, yeah, it's more just how do you want the client to actually see it, and then we work backwards about building it. Good revenue leakage savings. Yeah, one of our very early clients who then actually became an investor in our early round on a VoIP bill found 4,800 in MRR out the gates, and on one invoice on 1 month that he just wasn't capturing. And yeah, we found so many. Our goal in this is like to recoup your year's ROI in the first 2 months through the 5% of line items that you're likely not going to be billing if this is manual, for one, and naturally truing up that your margins are right. There's some real, like some uplifts that you can quickly run. So yeah, we see somewhere around about 6 to 8% uplift in these services revenues that we expect to help you with once it's and then your time saving after that, of course, because it's all mapped and pretty easy going.
Even for yourself, Curt, did you notice that when you started using it, did you catch anything immediately that you're like, oh, look at that?
Yeah, we caught a lot of unrealized revenue right off the bat, and it's saved us pretty well.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, like just based off the sheer volume of stuff that's billed for, like it's almost impossible to do it. Like if you're doing it manually now, it's like, how? Good luck.
Yeah, I used to just spend countless hours, going through it, and now I can get it done in a couple of days.
Yeah.
It would take me better part of a week to do it before, and now I'm done in a couple of days.
That's awesome. Yeah. So at the very least,
yeah,
short of the revenue leakage, at the very least, the time savings and the stress is maybe worth it alone for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question came in, Curt, for you specifically. Do you bill in advance or do you build?
We bill the current month that we are in. So like everything will come in, like all of our Microsoft products are pretty much middle of the month. And then, so what I do is I take a snapshot on the 25th of everything, and I bring it in and give it to Adam, and then we'll get it all loaded in, and then I'll go through, from the 25th to the end of the month and just reconcile everything because we, get everything ready for, the first of the month is when we bill. So.
Sure. Hopefully that helps. Anonymous attendee, I see you. All right. I'm not going to say we're done because now every time I say it, something's going to pop up. So I'm going to say, we're going to stick it. I knew it. I see it, Melinda. Got you. All right. So Melinda's asking, is it possible to get a breakdown of bundled items, such as licenses that include an add-on like Pax8 and products like that in Azure as well? I think it's one for you, Adam.
If there's if that information is available, say in the Pax8 invoice, then yeah, I'd say that there's a way that we can split it or achieve it in, like, it's more what the intended outcome that you're looking for. And if our job is to take info from one side and then learn the way in which your PSA has been set up and then bridge that gap between the two of them. So if typically there's components that you can split out, and we can sort of add some very simple logic to break out and have that information. So if the info is available to us in the pack, like we do Pax8 for about 20 different partners now, it's awesome. It works really, really well. Awesome integration as well, but like that extra peace of mind to make sure everything's trued up. So I'd say drop me a note and we can take on that specific example. The question for everyone else, is it possible to view a breakdown of bundled items, i.e. licenses that include an add-on Pax8, those products in Azure as well? So yeah, Melinda, I'd say just drop me a note and we can work through specifics. Another question, how does CloudOlive manage Microsoft price increases? Well, we see the unit costs that you're getting charged as of like the month that you're getting billed. So you saw the toggle that we go, show me where unit cost doesn't match PSA cost, like those two things. That toggle there will just leave you with what now doesn't line up. And yeah, but we actually rolled out that feature that I showed around margin getting compressed month on month because of Microsoft discounts, and really diligent clients about actually 1 month making money, next month not making money. And we're like, when we dug into, we worked out what it was. So that's why we sort of pushed through, and we released the piece just showing if your costs increase, your margin is compressed and either added into the PSA, or as I said, 9 out of 10 times it's actually forced a conversation between our client and the vendor to understand what's actually happened from the vendor side.
Yes. All right. Are we done? I don't know. I'm scared. Scared to say it. Okay. Nah, there it is. Okay, we got one. I feel good on going out of that.
That was just amazing. Thanks, Chantel. That's an awesome way to start our day. We're early doors here.
I was going to say, for those that are not aware, we selfishly were like 3 p.m. Central for the webinar. And so poor Adam's up in the morning doing this thing. So thank you very much. And that's for you. Yeah. And
Thanks for staying up.
What a great bedtime. I hope you're in bed right now on a phone or something, just watching this going, the great thing right before bed, right to sleep for 9:50 p.m. in the UK. There you go. She's reconciled.
There you go. Send it over.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, like I said, if anything comes up at any point for anybody, obviously Adam, myself, open books, Curt, probably don't want to go bother Curt. He's doing his stuff. But at the same time, if you have questions for Curt, maybe he's open too. I don't know. Thank you guys for joining me. Again, it'll be available on YouTube and sneaking in another one. What's the pricing? Adam, what's the pricing?
So our pricing is broken down based on the amount of costs that you're going to be reconciling via our system. So anywhere from $400 per month up to $1,500 per month for the unlimited, and the like 400 gets you about 40K cost reconciled, and then 1,500 gets you like north of 150. So most sit in that middle around the $700 odd mark, or yeah, sub 40K reconciled would be 400. And we do have a one-time setup fee based on sort of the level of hand-holding. If the PSA really needs some love, there's a more hands-on approach, which would be $1,999. And then there's a lighter one, which we can talk through for $499, which will all the mappings, all the back and forwards we'll have around achieving the outcome that you're looking for. Like what Curt and I were talking about, we want CrowdStrike now. And like Curt will come back and say, hey, we're going to look for old machines now. How can CloudOlive lift that data out and put the word flag or some alert system that we want to add in there? So that's we like the $499 will cover that. But we'll do a PSA review with you if you think that it can be a bit of a tidy up done. And like trying to consolidate down duplicate services and products is a key one. We've just got a really clean process. USD.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, the question for those that don't know is what was this pricing in? We're talking USDs. And do you bill only in US or do you have?
We can do pounds as well, Chantel, and we can do Aussie. So local we can handle.
Gotcha. You are very welcome. I'm scared. I'll be honest. I don't want to.
Cool.
Are you going to any events yourself, Adam?
We just did IT Nation in London. That was sort of our first. We've been very head down working and building this product for the last 3 years, and now our first investment in an event was IT Nation, and that's where we met Chantel. Awesome. So yeah, we'll likely do the Dattos or the Kaseya's and the Connect Wisers later on in the year, and yeah, we're keen to meet as many people as we can.
Awesome.
How about you guys?
Same.
You're everywhere now.
Yeah, we have a big show circuit. We're right now there's a Robbins boot camp, which is in Tennessee, I want to say, and then we're doing Vegas for Connect IT in a couple of weeks. But we usually hit the big major shows. So at any point, which is really fun again for anybody watching this, it's like whether it's fellow vendors or customers and MSPs, just shooting the breeze is always fun at shows.
Chantel just asked us another question. Any UK customers? Yeah, we've got really good traction in the UK, 20 plus customers, some really good use cases there. I worked for Datto in the UK when they merged with Autotask, so that's part of the reason why we've got pretty good traction out there. Ireland as well, but yeah, really good experience in the UK. Our third client ever, before we could actually invoice them automatically via Stripe, and we had to send them an invoice via Xero in Australian dollars, was from the UK.
But I was like, there's new questions, just fab. It's like, that's pretty good. They're killing it. All right. Do I hit the button now? I don't know. I'm going to do it.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And we'll catch you for the next one. All right. Bye, everybody.
Cool.